How do you think and live clutter-free? We'll find out today on Keeping You Organized. Today on Keeping You Organized, we have Jennifer Ford-Berry from jenniferfordberry.com, and we are going to talk about clutter and how to get rid of it. Jennifer, welcome to Keeping You Organized.
Hello, thanks for having me today.
Now, you have a new book that was recently released called Think and Live Clutter-Free, and I really want to get into that because I think people deal with clutter. I think everybody deals with it, and I want to look at the whole idea first. How is it that we accumulate so much stuff? Why do we get all this clutter?
Well, I really feel like our world right now tells us with all the media and the advertising and the marketing that the more stuff we have, the more important we are, and it's like the more things we have in our house is kind of our gauge of if we've made it, if we've become successful. And it's, really hard to combat that way of thinking, but with what I do as a professional organizer every day is try to tell people, you know what, it's not about the stuff, it's about actual living. And the more things you have, the more responsibility you have to them, which requires work and cleaning and sorting and, just all those things that go along with owning things. And I constantly remind my clients that you can't take it with you. So
Right.
It's more important to live than to be a slave to the things that you own. And I think if we can break that pattern, we will be happier people.
I always said to my dad, if you got to get rid of some of this stuff, and I said you can't take it with you. I used that line. He said, well, he said if I can't take it with me, then I don't want to go. But anyway, and my parents were in that Depression generation where at one point in their life they had nothing. Then they started, in the 50s accumulating stuff, and it was very hard for them to let go. Do you have any senior clients that you've worked with that you could tell us about that maybe have been in this situation of just not wanting to let go because, psychologically it's difficult?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned the Great Depression era because that's really where a lot of this stems from. I have a client that is living in the U.S. for many, many years, but from Italy. And in Italy, her parents were very, very poor. And they moved their family here to the United States. And my client actually ended up marrying into some money and to a successful businessman. And she now has this beautiful, gigantic house full of things. She couldn't ask for anything more, but she has her favorite painting, and that's of a woman just kind of walking away with a suitcase. And she always tells me that she wants to be that woman because it represents simplification and peace and adventure. But yet she has a really hard time letting go of anything because of the way she was raised and how hard they work to accumulate things. And so now that she has those things, she feels really guilty and she has a really hard time letting go of them because she knows they all represent hard work, money, and the sacrifices her family made.
Okay, well, let's talk about the book, Think and Live Clutter-Free, and how do you actually organize the book? Is it in different areas of becoming clutter-free? I mean, how do you approach that topic?
Well, the whole entire book is broken up into basically some subcategories. It's 52 weeks long, so each week you focus on one topic, which that's the way I write all of my books. But this one I'm just really excited about because I think it starts on the inside. So it's broken up into health, time management, your stuff, which will cause inner clutter, and then your health and your spirit. So it's all those different parts of what I like to call inner clutter and how to handle those things and deal with them so that the inside feels more peaceful and clutter-free and really stress-free.
Now, let's start with the health thing, because when I think about health, I don't necessarily think about clutter in health other than, when my mom had her, 500 pills in all the different little, pill boxes and stuff. But how do people have health that's cluttered, I guess?
Well, it's everything from, not taking care of your body, not making a priority to schedule time in your planner for follow-up appointments, wellness appointments, dentist appointments, all those things that we know we should be doing, but we really just don't have a plan and we don't take the time to plan it. It also encompasses paperwork that goes along with your health, things that maybe if something were to happen to you, your family members would have to find quickly, but not overdoing it and making it piles and piles or files and files of paper. You want to have a system. You want it to be simplified because we don't like to think of emergencies with our health, but they do happen. And the more prepared you are, the better off you'll be able to handle that situation. So there's just, basically I think I have here maybe 10 weeks just devoted to health, and it's all different areas.
Yeah, let's take one of those weeks. What would be one of the weekly assignments or weekly areas that you would, cover in the health area?
Well, one is organizing your medicine cabinet.
Okay.
And how important it is to go through there, 1 to 2 times a year and actually go through and make sure you don't have expired medications and how bad that is for you. And also, the other part of it is being prepared for the upcoming season. So maybe in the fall, you're preparing for winter, so you're stocking up for your family for cold medicine and flu medicine and things like that, but also how to organize your first aid kit, things like that. So when something happens, especially if it's an emergency or you have small children and you need a first aid kit, you're not running all over the house saying, I know I have it somewhere, but I don't know where it is.
Right. Well, let's. I want to take a little detour here because I do want to get into some of the other areas in the book, but I want to find a little bit more about your background and like when did you start professional organizing and how you got into the business, and have you always been organized your whole life?
Yeah, I think that's the number one question, John, and I really answer it as yes, I have. And I think I was born this way. I'm the oldest of 3 girls, and my parents had a organized, tidy home, but yet all 3 of us handled our bedrooms differently. And I always joke that my middle sister was always in trouble for having a messy room, and then there was me who thought it was fun to go clean and rearrange and organize my room. So it's just the way I always was. I used to literally ask my grandmother when I was 5 if I could organize her jewelry when I would go over and spend time with her. I mean, what 5-year-old does that? But I thought it was fun. And basically, after I got out of college, I was working for corporate America, and I had the job I was supposed to have in my mind, and I was making really good money, and I was supposed to be loving it. I mean, worked, for 5 years to get there. And I wasn't that happy. And after 9/11, I was laid off from my corporate job, and I had some time to really evaluate what I wanted to do with my life. And I wanted to do something I was going to be passionate about, knowing that every day I'd have to wake up and do this for many years. And the one thing that kept sticking in my mind was organizing. But at that time, this was about 12, 13 years ago, it wasn't that big of an industry. I didn't know any professional organizers. So I kind of tried to talk myself out of it, kind of saying, well, how would I make money doing that? It's just a silly idea. But then it was so strong inside myself that I went for it. And I took all of my marketing and business and advertising that I had went to school for and applied it to this. And I cannot tell you how it just snowballed because of my passion and excitement for it. And actually the reason why I wrote my first book is from a little newsletter I had done when I started my business called Free Weekly Organizing Tips. And that, little did I know, years later, that would become my first book.
Wow. Can you remember who your first client was and how you organized them and what their challenge was?
My first client was actually a coworker. I was working for radio at the time in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she was a coworker. She kind of gave me a shot at trying my skills, and it was in her closet. And I just thought I died and went to heaven being able to completely tear her closet apart and start over with my own vision. And she came home. I was very nervous, and I didn't, it was my first time, and she absolutely loved it. But I knew right then that it wasn't all about, where I put the clothes. It was more about picking the clothes that she would actually put on in the morning that would make her feel good about herself. And that is part of the inner, those inner things that we need to organize, is quit worrying about all these clothes just because you spent money on them if they don't make you feel good.
Did you have to help her get rid of some clutter as well as part of that project?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that really was all the clothes that she just wasn't putting on because for some reason it didn't make her feel good.
Wow. Well, listen, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about your new book, Think and Live Clutter-Free, and get into some of the other categories like time management. How do we deal with our time? So it's Jennifer Ford Berry from jenniferfordberry.com, and we'll be back in just a moment. Do you need ideas on to-do lists, keeping focus, and filing information while on the go? The 100 Ideas for Better Organization ebook by Smead is sure to be a helpful tool for your organizing needs. Each idea is titled so you can quickly scan the book for whatever topic you may need to reference at the given time. With over 100 years in the organizing business, this free ebook will become a well-used resource and motivator for introducing ideas that boost your productivity. Get the 100 Ideas for Better Organization ebook by going to smead.com/100. Download yours now at smead.com/100. Smead, keeping you organized. We are back on Keeping You Organized now, and we have Jennifer Ford Berry from jenniferfordberry.com, and the book Think and Live Clutter-Free is your latest book. You have a couple other books as well. Do you want to tell us about those?
Yeah, all my books are a part of a series called Organize Now, and they all have different subtitles. So the first one was Simplify Your Home and Your Life. The second one was Organize Now, Your Money, Business, and Career. And this one is Organize Now, Think and Live Clutter-Free. So they're all part of a series, and they're basically all written the same way, where they have bite-sized baby steps you can take every single day to get one area of your life organized. So if you're organizing your kitchen cupboards, it will literally tell you, do this, 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 and this, and you can check it off as you go. And at the end, there's tips, and after that is kind of a plan of how to keep it that way.
Now, did you develop these as part of your, as part of your practice, saying, hey, I've dealt with a certain number of people, and it seems like the challenges are the same, and you kind of just kept a document going? And I know you said the one was developed out of your newsletter. Is that correct?
Yeah, and what I found when I was writing that newsletter is that people that are feeling disorganized always have something in common. It's called feeling overwhelmed. That's what every single person tells me. So the last thing they want to do is open up a novel-like organizing book, because they, first of all, if they want to read a large, long-winded book, they're going to do it for fun and to, pass the time and kind of like downtime. But when it's something they want to learn, like organizing, the better, the smaller the step, the easier it is to follow. Seems to work a lot better. And I just knew that there wasn't a lot of books available that were written this way. And I wanted to make it so that anybody that's feeling overwhelmed could open one of my books and say, you know what, I can do this. This is simple and straightforward. And I can just take it one step at a time every single day.
All right, well, let's jump back into Think and Live Clutter-Free and cover another area. So you said one of the areas was time management. Give us an example of one of the weeks or one of the things you kind of attack in the time management area.
Well, one of the weeks is about children's extracurricular activities, because that seems to be something, we might as adults be really organized with our schedule, but the more children you add into the mix, the more stressful it gets, because now you're not only managing your schedule, but your family's schedule as well. And also on top of that, we have so many pressures of making sure that our kids are keeping up with the neighbors' kids and the other kids at school. And it seems like kids start sports and activities much younger than I did or my parents did. Parents are expected to be much more involved than they used to be. And so all of that needs, you need a system, you need a plan, not just how to do the scheduling and make sure that we're, the whole entire family's on the same page, but also when to say no, how to decide what's best for your family, how to just know your child, and if they're getting tired or cranky, maybe they're in too many activities. So that week is just really useful for anybody that has a family.
Now, is there, say, a specific tool you would use, like, a big calendar in a central place, or how do you approach it from a tool standpoint?
Well, it depends on the family, because there's no right or wrong way for how you use a schedule. It's just, the point is something you're going to keep up with. So if it's just easier for you to use a big dry erase board in your mudroom because you like to write and wipe off right there, then that's great. Maybe if you have teenagers, families like to do digital calendars that are synced. because, maybe mom or dad is very techy and always on the computer, and it's faster just to type it, and then they send it off to all the family members. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but really what's important is a system not so much that you think you should use, but one you actually enjoy using and that you're going to stick with.
All right, well, let's talk about your own personal time management. How does Jennifer Ford Berry organize her day? Do you use a paper calendar, a digital? Do you organize in blocks? How do you get it all done?
I actually, John, have my own planner. It's part of my series, so I'll show you. It's right here. This is my best friend.
Oh,
and it's
okay.
a day planner, and that's what I use every single day. So I still write out my schedule. I like to write. I don't have good penmanship. I will admit, my husband always complains about that, but I do tend, even though I'm on the computer all the time, I do still like to write my schedule. So that's just me, and that's the planner I use, but it's very personal.
So you've developed that planner, and do you offer that for sale too?
Yes.
So
yes.
how would that maybe be different than a day at a glance or some of the other things out there? Or is it just kind of set up in a way that you really liked?
It basically has, in the beginning of every month, a place to put your bills when the bills are due, and then it has goals. Because I really think it's important to always have goals, not just to-dos. So for that month, I may have, a specific goal that I'm going to focus on for my blog, or, maybe a company I want to work with. So that kind of keeps it right in front of me. And then every single day, there's a tip for people that want to just be reminded of organizing tips. And they're just simple things that you can apply to your life. And then the other thing I like about it is that the spaces for each day are big, because like I mentioned, I'm a messy writer. I think I've typed too long, but now when I actually write, it's very messy. I can't fit in a tiny little box. So I like that about it.
Now, do you have like a daily or a weekly routine you go through where you kind of review your organizer at a certain time and try to tidy it up, or, set things?
Yeah, absolutely. I also use a to-do list that's prioritized. So what I do is I look at my to-do list, which obviously is never ending for all of us, and I take the priorities that have to get done this week and I plug them into my schedule. So if I have a client, maybe from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., if I have errands to run, I'll do them from 2 to 3. Just because I don't want to get back out onto the road at 5. So I really combine the to-do list with the schedule and make sure that everything's getting handled. And it's not just about being organized, but what that does is it makes me feel like I'm in control of my time rather than my time having control of me. And as soon as you feel like your time is out of control, you really start feeling the stress and the feelings of being overwhelmed. And then what happens is you lose energy to do things. So this is the system that works for me. I really think everybody needs a to-do list because it's clearing that mental clutter. So we're not forcing ourselves to remember everything, which is never going to happen. So you remove it from your mind and you put it down on paper, and then you schedule it in your planner.
Okay, so now we've talked about health and we've talked about time management. What else is in Think and Live Clutter-Free?
It's really a lot about your spirit and your soul. And I really feel as me in this position as a professional organizer and with this platform that it's about the bigger picture. And like I kind of mentioned before, it's not just about accumulating stuff, but it's about living a life that when for example, when you walk into your home, you should feel peaceful. You should feel like it represents your family. You shouldn't walk into your home every day and just go, oh, yuck, I'm here again, and where do I begin? And that's how many of my clients feel when I meet them. And that's sad to me. So it's about fueling yourself, finding out why you're here, what you're doing with your life, giving back, making time to actually help others, and not just being so consumed with cleaning and tidying up. I mean, the more things you have, the more, less time it seems that we have for our relationships, or even just time to reflect on our life and to focus on our spirit, which is really the most important thing. If you can find peace within that, the rest will fall into place.
Now, in the book, do you like do all the health ones for a certain number of weeks, then all the time management ones, and then all the spirit ones, or do you kind of mix them up throughout the year, or is it just kind of you can kind of pick whichever one you want to work on?
It's written in a way that they're all together in chunks, but I always tell everybody that purchases my books that you should usually, a lot of times people will pick up the book at a book signing or, if I'm speaking, they'll say, well, do I start with week 1? And I say, start with the area that's really bothering you the most, because once you say, you walk into your house and your mudroom is really driving you crazy, then start with that. Maybe if you pick up one of the books and it's, talking about how to make a budget, and that's something that's been on your mind and you're just really feeling bad because you haven't done it yet, start with that, because once you take the first baby step and you go from beginning to end, you start to feel good about yourself and you start to say, hey, I can do this. And that will give you energy to want to pick another week and another week. So you do not have to go in order by any means.
Okay. Well, let's look at in the last 2 weeks, and our listeners and viewers love to hear kind of behind the scenes stories where, here was the challenge and here's how you resolved it. Think about maybe one of your clients and a challenge they had and how you overcame it in the last couple weeks.
Well, as far as clients go, I recently have a client that had her brother pass away tragically, a young dad of 3 children, and the way that has affected their family has been horrible. It's a shock. It's really rough. And what happened is she kind of decided to just, something inside of her just made sense, and she thought, you know what, you're right, you can't take this stuff with us. And it's holding me back from living in the moment. It's holding me back from spending as much time as I can with my kids or my spouse, and we don't know how long we have here. So she kind of really, somebody that's struggled for many years with parting, she didn't have a problem parting at all. And actually, she wanted to simplify her house room by room to a whole nother level. And what has happened is in that process, which is my favorite part about being a professional organizer, she sees now what I've been telling her. She feels it. She knows that these things that we're letting go of is not what life's about. And she's actually feeling happier. It's almost like it's helping her with the grieving process, all this purging. And it's making her feel like she's using her brother's death as a way to improve her life, rather than it just being a horrible situation that she's had to go through.
And that makes your job a little more satisfying too, that you can really help people see success. Well,
that's the best part.
we're out of time now, and I want to give you the opportunity to let people know the best way to connect with you.
I am at jenniferfordberry.com. I'm on Facebook under author organizer Jennifer Ford Berry. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Google+. I'm on Pinterest. So anybody that's listening that has a question, or if you're struggling with some sort of organizing issue, or you want to talk to me more about the inner clutter, then by all means reach out. I love to hear from you.
That's great. Well, the book is Think and Live Clutter-Free, and you have a couple other books, and website jenniferfordberry.com. Thank you for joining us today. And it's Jennifer Ford Berry from jenniferfordberry.com today on Keeping You Organized.